Let me introduce you to a very good friend of my player characters, and this is called the Tower of Fate. And the reason it's the friend of my player characters is this is where I keep my action points for my game. So if you lift the lid off, it's a nice little resin sculpture. I have action points in here. And these are actually action points from Dapper Devil. They're really, really nice. I really like them, but to get a lot of them, it can be kind of pricey. So you could use anything really for action points. You could use, you know, glass beads or even candy. The players just eat the candy when they use an action point. But, you know, hey, it's your game, you know, if your budget, so whatever you want to get. But I really like these. They look great. Now, in normal D&D, 4E, you get an action point every milestone. So every couple encounters, you get an action point. And you can use the action point to do an extra action. So, an extra standard action. So you could use it to move, you could use it to attack again if you missed, or something like that. Now that's fine, but it really doesn't encourage heroic play, and you know, there are some whims of fate in the game that you just may have a streak of bad luck, and these can really help mitigate that in the game. So I've really greatly expanded the action point system. So what I do is every encounter I give everyone an action point. Okay. I also give an action point if you roll a natural 20. So if you're rolling a 20 for a check, if you're rolling a 20 for a crit, so that's even sweeter, an even sweeter roll when you roll a 20. Not only do you do something very successfully, you get an action point. So it's like a, you know, a nice little reward. I have rewarded action points for great role playing, but usually that's not the case. I mean, rarely I might do that. Now, the action points in my game are greatly expanded. You can still use the action point for an extra action, but you can use them also for these other things, which I'm going to tell you. Now, you can still only use one action point a turn, okay? So you can't just use a bunch of them. Now, let me explain before I tell you the actions that they can use them for. I do allow the players to keep their action points between games, but I only allow them a maximum of 10. So once they get 10 action points, they can't get any more until they spend some, okay? But remember, you can only use one on a turn. So you couldn't just burn all your action points in one turn, okay? So now, here's the actions that you can actually use the action point for. So like I said, you can gain the extra standard action, which that's with the regular rules. You can re-roll any die roll. So you could re-roll damage or your D20 roll. So that's kind of cool. Also, if you're just not quite there on the D20 and you need like a point or two, I also allow you to roll an extra D6 and add it to the D20. So say you missed by 1 or 2 points and you don't want to risk just rolling a crappy roll on the D20, you could roll a D6 and add it to the D20, and if you get a couple points on the D6, you could push it over. So sometimes that's a better option than just totally re-rolling the D20. If you give me an action point, you can recharge an encounter power, which is really nice if the things are going really badly. I also use them to regain a healing surge, because I have a pretty extreme penalty if a player has no healing surges in my game. So you can regain a healing surge. You can recharge your second wind. So you could give it to me to reach. It doesn't use it, but you could recharge your second wind. And then this is the only exception. You can spend 2 action points to regain a daily power. Okay. So those are all the situations I have that you can use action points for. So they really. The player really has a lot of choice as far as using them. I find that my players mostly use them to re-roll, but they've used them for a lot of the other things also. And so there you go. There's my action point system. I thought you might be interested in it, and I'll talk to you next time on GameThunk.